Hi, cohort mentors. This is Danielle. This video is just to briefly take you through the purpose of month one of the cohort mentorship program on informal goal setting. So, I'm just going to take you through kind of the ideas that are at the core of the comms for the first two meetings of the cohort mentorship program. So, in the first meeting, what we're asking um, mentors to do, and I actually just changed this, so I'm just going to fix this right now because I just got rid of two things on here, just hopefully make your lives easier, um, is just to have a traditional icebreaker. And then obviously to do some housekeeping. So going over the mentorship program. And again, as always, which I'll kind of say again and again, is it's a good idea to look at these comms before the meeting. And then also I think it's a great idea to have this open during the meeting. And if you have a printer, if it'd be great to print it out um, if possible, so you have it in front of you because it's meant to help guide you through the the mentoring session and really help you stay within that 60 minutes of the cohort mentoring session. So, the housekeeping includes things like talking to mentees about the twice per month meetings, which they should have a good idea about at this point. That another thing they should have another idea about, obviously, is that each month covers a particular theme and the three-step model. The three-step model, as a reminder, and this is what you can find in the Defining the Cohort Mentorship Model document that I've started writing, which is in the general channel of this team site, is the warm-up discussion wrap-up. And every mentoring session follows that three-step model. That's 5 to 10 minutes for warm up, 35 to 40 minutes on the discussion, and 5 to 10 minutes on wrap up. So, and all of this housekeeping is meant to help manage the expectations of the mentees. Obviously, talking to them about the importance of communication and engagement. You can talk to them about confidentiality and also talking to them about policies related to missing meetings or not being engaged in the program, which can lead to disciplinary action that can remove them from Compass and can lead them to be unable to apply for up to a year. So, unfortunately, there are consequences. This is something that has been practiced in the COAS mentoring program, the former, what was formerly the former name of Compass, in the individual, what is now the individual mentorship program. And that same policy is being used here. So, uh, and then addressing meeting scheduling. So, has your cohort found a time that regularly works? Do you need to revisit days and times to establish something that works? Or will your cohort need to schedule sessions on a session by session basis? And that has to do with have you already figured out kind of like a regular day and time that works for you and your mentees, or do you have a group where you all need to kind of every session revisit everyone's schedule and say, okay, I'm going to send out another, availability, and we'll choose another day and time. So talking about schedules is also important. The kind of main mentoring aspect of this first meeting is starting to get mentees to talk about goal setting in an informal way. And we frame this mentorship program by ending the program with formal goal setting through the SMART goals. And this is all kind of time dependent. So obviously setting as much time for this as possible by getting, doing as much of this as possible is ideal, but obviously depending on how much time you have for it. But these are all recommendations, right? Having your mentees take a few minutes to jot down 3 goals that they hope participating in this program will help them with. And then depending on time, right, having your mentees share one or all of the goals they wrote down. And maybe for you, if you want, you can take notes of their informal goals, especially if there's overlap. Like if you notice that your mentees are noting like similar goals, because that may be something you want to return to later on. And that's also something that you can document in your Teams doc. Wrap up, as usual, is the same as always. Go over what you discussed, those 3 major takeaways, and this is all the same as in every other COM and every other meeting agenda. And same thing with the post-meeting work. This is always the same. So this is that first meeting, which works, like I said before, a little bit differently than the other meetings, which are all standard and use that 3-step model: the warm-up, the discussion, and the wrap-up, which you can see here. And here's where I start putting in the time that you should be spending on those different steps. So after that, right, in terms of how it works, right, after that first meeting, the mentees get a worksheet. They prepare for things, they prepare for the warm-up, they prepare for the discussion. And then you have this now quote unquote meeting agenda, right? Or guide to help you with this second meeting about informal goal setting. The purpose of the warm-ups is to just do that, is to get everybody warmed up to talk. These are people who may not know each other. They may have had classes together, you don't know. But it's really to get people in, getting ready and comfortable with sharing and talking to one another. And so the first warm-up is mentees as teachers, which is where they have about 2 minutes. And the time, I always say 2 to 3 minutes, but it really does depend on how many mentees you end up having in your cohort on a regular basis. So it may end up being more than 2 to 3 minutes. So take the 2 to 3 minutes as a recommendation. But again, this depends on how many mentees you have. So the mentees as teachers warm up is where they teach the cohort something about which they are knowledgeable. So it gives them a chance to kind of show their expertise in an area and also give them that challenge of time base. Like you have a specific amount of time to teach the cohort something. The discussion, or the body, the main part of this particular meeting on informal goal setting is really focused on getting the mentees to talk about, they're asked to, the worksheet that they do, ask them to look at all the themes, the 4 themes for the cohort mentorship program, and think about those 3 to 5 things that they hope are ultimate takeaways from the cohort mentorship program, and then reflect on those and explain why those are important to them. And then you're asked to kind of facilitate a discussion based on what they wrote and thought about in terms of informal goal setting. So that's the focus on that, and that's why it's considered informal goal setting. So it's kind of, I think this is what I want to focus on, but the idea is that through the mentorship program, up until they get until that last module, which is formal goal settings, where they're asked to actually reflect on these informal goals, they may or may not have changed their minds about what they want to continue working on once they leave the cohort mentorship program. And as usual, wrap up and post meeting work is the same. So that's the purpose of the first module, or I should say the first month, and informal goal setting is really why it's called introduction and informal goal setting, right? You're getting to meet your mentees, they're getting to meet you, and they're also kind of being introduced to the program itself. And they're asked to kind of think about right away, what are some goals that I really want to work on, or ultimate takeaways from this program, and why are those significant to me? Why are they important? So they're already right off the bat asked to kind of reflect on these things. And so that's the, in theory, the goal, the kind of pedagogical goal of the mentorship conversations that will hopefully take place in module, or in the first month of the cohort mentorship program.